Yeah, we are live now.
Okay. Nation and market for their products and services, that relationship can also be enhanced. So why should the Scotland be important? Obviously, Yash Chopra has done his best to make Scotland's beauty very well known to the Indian audience. But from the business point of view, we are a small country here, Scotland, but on a global landscape, it is punching well above its weight, simply because of a new way of thinking, a new way of creating new opportunities with the technology, and embracing humanity around the globe. So we are looking at it from a point of view that it is a population of 5.5 million, which when compared to Indian size of 1.3 billion, it's a tiny population. But in over the course of next 15 to 20 minutes, which I'm just going to discuss with you, why should it be a key partner for India, and why should India be a key destination for Scottish companies? The language in both countries is English. In India, it's a working language. In Scotland, it's the main predominant language. So that is a key advantage of working. And in terms of looking at the reasons, why should the Indian leaders and businesses look to invest in Scotland? There are a plethora of reasons for that. And some of them are a key in terms of that it's talented workforce and strong and collaborative industries. There is a deep and big history of innovation coming out of Scottish universities and Scottish industries. Cost of living is low, but the quality of life is very high, and it is very well connected. These are some of the main features why Scotland is a powerhouse of innovation and research and development. At the same time, it is a record-breaking place to invest. And I would convince you why so. Because despite its size, Scotland is UK's most attractive region for investment. Just outside of London, it is for the 7th consecutive year, Scotland has attracted more investment just outside of London from the UK. Glasgow, Edinburgh, and Aberdeen, they are the top 10 UK cities for foreign direct investment in the UK, always in top 10. And the growth of foreign direct investment in Scotland has outpaced the UK as a whole in 2019. And even when we look at just outside Scotland or UK, it is in top 10 ranking in the European regions for Future Report for the foreign direct investment. So from that point of view, for any organization, businesses and leaders looking to do business with Scotland, looking to set up offices there, their companies here and trade with it, it is a very attractive destination. And why so is that because the risk is very low in this, but the value is very high. And I would say why so is because Scotland is one of the lowest tax rate in Europe, and the corporation tax is falling from 19% to 17% in 2020. But at the same time, because knowing both countries as I do very well, London looks to be a very attractive destination for Indian businesses because it's a financial hub. But let me clarify that the property and the salary costs are up to 40% less than London. So if you are thinking of setting up an office in the UK somewhere, Scotland should be looking very attractive because you can acquire the similar types of properties here and pay stuff less at the 40% rate less. And it's a low risk location because of the very transparent government and legal systems. It's a safe, stable and a secure society. So looking at that, the other very attractive feature for any businesses coming to Scotland or looking to do business with Scotland is its talent. Because as we are hearing, and COVID-19 has shown us that the talent and the technology is the key feature for any businesses. And to Indian audience and businesses and leaders, I don't need to specify the value of that is placed on Scottish education and a British education for that matter, because the population here is highly qualified. It is multilingual. And as a society, we are committed to inclusive growth, and there is staff satisfaction rates are higher. As a result, there is low staff turnover. So when the staff join the business, they are happy working for a long term, and the turnover rate tends to be quite high. One of the key features of that high quality staff that is available and the talent that is available to work with your businesses, either as part of your direct employee or as part of your supply chain process, is because of the highly educated population that is there. Scotland has 19 universities here, which is the highest concentration in Europe in terms of, and out of those 19, 5 are consistently in the top 200, which means that 5 of Scottish universities are in the top 1% all over the world, which means they are producing a set of trained students and staff which are of a quality second to none. And as a result, there is further education colleges, there are vocational colleges which are preparing staff for various jobs that are required to work with these businesses. And the other aspect besides the education, the talent, and the destination is the innovation capacity of Scottish businesses. Scotland it is a powerhouse of innovation. And as said, Mishma was introducing that we have our relationship from 17th century. So those people who are aware or who are not aware, for them, I would say television, penicillin, and radar are just some of the very few examples of Scottish innovation. This slide shows that right from 1700s to 2017, the huge number of innovations, including Dolly the sheep and the life and health sciences, to the technology innovations, Scotland has always been at a forefront. And more so, it is important now when the technology has become so important for any businesses that we have to go and streamline our processes and methods on platforms. The innovation center that are listed here, whether it's the computing, whether it's the big data utilization, or the fintech, or in terms of health and life sciences, we have a number of world-class innovation centers available. So if your business is looking to work with the Scottish partners or looking to move into here, and your product is requiring a development and innovation, there is no shortage of it, and it can all be made available and partnered up. And similarly, we have a structure and system which is going to, if you are looking to interact, set up here, you're going to be able to find help all the way, at every step of the way, right from the time that you decide to set up a business or trade with Scottish partnerships. There are property searches or supply chain development, linking with the industry or linking with the academic partners to do some research, or finding talent and recruitment and skill advice. All that is available in form of via partnerships, various organizations that are present, and skills development is providing help with the digitalization, as well as Scottish Development International offices that are there in India can provide information on that one. And besides the people side of the aspect, there is also a lot of help available on the financial side, because these are the tight times, and what is looking attractive to you? Why should you come here? Why should you move to Scotland to set up an office here or to link up with Scottish partners? Is there that right from the innovation grants or your intellectual property tax relief or even equity funding, which the investment arm of the Scottish enterprise does as part of Scottish Investment Bank, and the sustainability and grant support. The new bank is coming, the Scottish National Investment Bank, which will be looking at the green agenda, the net zero, low carbon. If your business is in that direction, then that is also a lot of funds are being diverted at that, because that's a top priority for Scotland. So in terms of there is a well-established, well-oiled machinery, right from the R&D and innovation help to strategy development to market development, and also providing market research support to improve your business, and very active angel community, as well as the co-investment model from the public sector that is available. So if your business is looking to grow and scale, those options and opportunities are available here. And in terms of when you come here, whether you are looking at the European market or you're looking at the rest of the UK outside Scotland, or USA as well, or Middle East, this Scotland is very strategically very well connected in terms of that all the major there are 5 international airports, there are train connections directly to the rest of the UK as well as to the Europe. We have the major deep water ports. And in terms of for the digital and online support, it is available that 95.5% of fiber broadband coverage for the whole of Scotland. And the ambition is to cover 100% by 2021 with 5G. So from that point of view, you could be anywhere in any part and be connected to any part of the world and do your business from here. So for that point of view, you have taken care of your people side of the business. Your talent and innovation research development aspect is also very well catered for. You are connected to the world, and what you can do at the same time is enjoy an outstanding quality of life. And as I said in the beginning, the Bollywood has taken advantage of the spectacular scenery that Scotland has. Edinburgh is always voted in the top 10 best location worldwide. It is the best place to live because of the stunning scenery and the clean air and environment, but it's also the society and the people. It's a very welcoming and inclusive society to all diverse group of people. And as you can see, that there is a quality of life for family if you are trying to move, as well as your employees' satisfaction ratio tend to be very high. So now turning the tack slightly to the companies that are Scottish companies, and why should they look at Indian economy as a destination, as a partner on market to do the business. The fact there is that Indian economy is the fifth largest economy by nominal GDP. And if you were to take the purchasing power parity, it is the third largest economy. And its ambition is to be a 5 trillion economy by 2024. So from that point of view, it is a very, very attractive market and large size by sheer population and mass. So we should be looking at it very attractively. And in terms of World Bank of ease of doing business, it has jumped 14 places compared to 2018 to rank 63. So India is making changes in the making processes easier by improving upon ease of doing businesses. So it is attractive and useful for the companies that are coming from. And why it is India has become so important on the global stage is that is being driven by certain factors. For example, some of those are demographic profile. 80%, can you believe it, of Indian population is below 30 years of age, which means the market size is only going to go high and the purchasing power is also going to increase. It is an emerging middle class market, a very dynamic entrepreneurial culture is there, and the technological advances. We don't need to say very much about the Silicon Valley, where it is currently based, all the back office work that happens. But at the same time, there are also, the government is putting reforms into the macroeconomical, fiscal and tax environment. So now it is becoming, COVID-19 has hit every part of the world. So naturally, Indian market, Indian businesses have been impacted. But the Prime Minister Modi has taken steps, and the relief packages that are working are going to work quite positively towards the business sector, and hopefully it will be an environment soon for companies to work in it. Just to give you a flavor of the companies that are available here, and you can see here on this slide, the Scotland and India, the foreign direct investment connection and the trade connections that are already going on bilaterally between the two countries here. So some of the companies you can see here on that, Omega or Cleantech International, Genpact, Tata Consultancy Service, OYO that has recently come in. At the same time, there are academic collaborations also. University of Glasgow has a MOU signed in life sciences area with Biocon, which is Dr. Kiran Majumdar Shaw's company at the same, and University of Edinburgh and Dundee as well. So you can see that there is a history, there is an intention and drive to work on both partner of country. But the Scottish companies which are present here, what are the opportunities for you there in India? If you look at this slide, I would say that we are strong in technology and at the forefront of certain. But for that, there is a market in India. Energy sector, whether it's renewable or the traditional, health tech, financial technology, education technology, which is India is a huge market for edtech models. And there is a long history of collaboration between our two countries, as well as the newly developing capacity of Scotland in space. India has a market in there also. So some of the Scottish companies can look at these areas to move to India and do business there. Obviously, in a new place doing business, it is challenging and there are certain constraints. So for navigating India, if I could give just some of the tips there, is that India is not a single national market. It has its states, which gives it a federal structure. So any company that is wishing to go and do business in India or trade with India or form a partnership, they need to look at and understand the market, the culture and the cultural practices, as well as there are local sourcing requirements and import tariffs. So to understand that, and a pricing model, it's a very price sensitive country and market. So as a result, adapting your business model to the end customer, but also understanding, is there a market for your product and service? If you do that research well, then you have every opportunity and every possibility of making it into the Indian market successfully. So I would, as a advice in terms of last, knowing the way the market works, and I would say plan and prepare well for your India market strategy. Any company going into a new market need to understand the culture of the country they are going into or market. But in this case, because it's large and it's very diverse, both in the terms of state and sectors, you would need and choose a right local partner, do your due diligence. But one thing that is key is that India works on relationships. So spend your time building trust with the partnering or collaborating agency or business that you are going to do work. As Mishma pointed out, and I would say Scottish Development International is there. And it has got 3 offices in Mumbai and Delhi and in Hyderabad. But at the same time, there are DIT, Department for International Trade, Global Scots, and there are trade association. Both my colleagues, Russell is from Scottish Business Network and Jane, Scotland IS, will talk to you about the other support that is available. And finally, one message is be patient and persistent, because entering and nailing a new market always takes time. And with that, I would just say, yes, both sides of whether it's the Indian business or Scottish businesses, time is now, because this is the crucial time. We need to make sure we develop trust, we have built partnership, reduce the competitive feeling and work on that collaboration, and we can nail the world. And on just this last slide, there are some local contacts that you can utilize in your country and contact people for business. And then I'll be happy to share and answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Poonam Malik. It was a very insightful and thought-provoking presentation, and seeing all the positive feedbacks already in the group, I'm sure that we're going to have very fruitful collaborations in the future. So thank you very much. And before we move on to the next speaker, I would like to, I'm very glad to introduce this launch by CIMSME. So CIMSME has launched SMEGlocal.com, which you can see is an upcoming global marketplace for buyers and sellers. And it has also launched Nishta, which is a global virtual industry and cluster platform for global industry collaboration and trade. So as the links have been posted, you can join the links to get further information. So yes, with that, we will move to our next speaker. I would now like to invite Mr. Russell Dalglish to share with us the legal framework for setting up businesses and the laws on taxation and labor. So Mr. Russell is a serial Scottish entrepreneur and investor, a strategist and an innovator. And Mr. Russell has highly successful international career in the technology sector and now focuses his efforts on supporting owners and boards of companies to devise and implement growth strategies to create shareholder value. In his early career, he has held board leadership positions with international companies, achieving a turnover of more than £200 million. His core areas of focus are leadership, innovation, entrepreneurship, and strategic thinking. He's a regular speaker at events on leadership in business and has spoken at conferences from Los Angeles to Abu Dhabi. He is also a member of the Scotland Trade Board and regularly named as one of the 100 most influential British entrepreneurs and one of the most influential figures in technology today. He is also a member of the Maserati list of business leaders who support the next generation of entrepreneurs. And he's also an investor and advisor, Par Equity Angel Investor Fund. With that, the floor is all yours, Mr. Russell.
Thank you. So if I bring my PowerPoint up, will I?
Yes, I will do that. Yes.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to speak into India. I've spent part of my career in India, both in Delhi and in some of the other cities, working in both engineering and in technology. And I have to be honest that India is one of the most exciting countries I've ever done business in. It's a country that's full of opportunity, full of incredibly hardworking people, and some of the best entrepreneurs I've ever met. But I'm here today to talk about my country of Scotland. So let's just press this and see what happens. So, just to introduce myself, so I am based just outside Edinburgh, in the centre of Scotland. I am what is known as a serial entrepreneur. So I sit on the board of a number of companies, either as investor or as advisor. I have 30 years international business experience in sectors as diverse as technology, food and drink, and the creative sector. Probably my most comfortable sector is technology. I graduated with a degree in technology, and I have been involved in technology my whole life. But in the last 120 days, I have witnessed the adoption of technology faster than at any time in my life. This adoption of technology has made the world a smaller place. It has brought us all together, and it has increased the opportunity for us to trade and to work together. I put some comments into the chat section, and what I was after was I was very interested to hear about your companies and about what sectors you are working in. Oh, I won't be muting. So I can see there is a number of companies that are involved in the food sector.
Mr. Russell, I'm sorry to interrupt. I would like to request the other speakers to kindly mute themselves because there's a lot of echo in the background. So other than Mr. Russell, the other speakers kindly go on mute. Thank you. Yes, sorry, Mr. Russell. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for muting. I hope I'm not the echo. Perhaps not. So I was just introducing you to my long and successful career and my love of India. So the types of companies I enjoy to work with are ones that have developed a product and are working in a high growth, fast accelerating market. And my opportunities to work with companies has never been greater. So this morning I ran a training course with a new investment of mine out of Singapore, and we were training people into Dubai. And we could just as easily be working from Scotland into India. And that's my passion. My passion is to increase the amount of trade happening between Scotland and India. And I need your help to do that, which is why it is so useful to have your comments so that I can see what your companies are. You have a social media company, a food and drink company, an engineering company. And what's good to see about that is those are exactly the same types of companies that we have in Scotland. Staffed by the same people, staffed with the same education. We just happen to be in different countries. In order to bring my passion together for Scots and Scots around the world to work together, I created an organisation called Scottish Business Network. This is an organisation that links people of Scottish heritage together around the world. And today we have about 10,000 people in that network. But I wanted to mention that network because in Scotland, we also have the most incredible, dynamic Indian culture as well. And because we have such a strong history of links with India and such a strong list of Indian companies in Scotland, we are the perfect place for Indian companies that are starting to export into Europe to come to Scotland first. And I would encourage you all to do that. I hold a number of board positions as well, so I sit on the Scottish Government Board of Trade. And because Scotland is a small country of only 5 million people, it is very easy to access the senior politicians, to access the decision makers, and to access the ecosystem that we have, again, which makes it easier to trade with us. I sit on the board of one of our universities, and just as Poonam explained, we are so proud of our education system. Our education system, which has allowed us to develop some incredibly talented and skilled individuals. I also have the opportunity to sit on the board of a quite wonderful organisation that you will hear of next, which is called Scotland Is. This is Scotland's technology trade body, which today announced that it is the most successful cluster body in the UK, reaching together and working with an ecosystem, in this case, all in technology. And I want you to consider in India, with a country that is so vast, how challenging it can be to make the correct connections in different parts of the country. Whereas in Scotland, a very small country and a very welcoming country, it is very easy to make those connections. So I also sit on companies to do with recruitment, as I've said, with technology. What we are witnessing in Scotland today, and in the UK as a whole, is a huge desire to adopt technologies, particularly in digital, to help us in terms of trade. So if you have products or solutions in that area, I would love to hear from you. So, where is Scotland? I think we all know. Poonam was wonderful at explaining some of the details of Scotland, and I've mentioned some of these here as well. We are very much an island nation with a large coastland, but right across that nation, there are opportunities for Indian companies to work with us. I could say that there are many flights from India to Scotland, but at the present moment, there are very few flights anywhere. But again, this is where the technology helps us by allowing us all to connect. In the centre of this, we have a picture of our First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon. And it's important to understand that though part of the United Kingdom, Scotland has a devolved political system. This makes it easier to make decisions locally and to make decisions quickly. We also have, as Poonam mentioned, an organisation in Scottish Development International, which is there to support companies to come to Scotland and to set up in the United Kingdom. Many, many companies are coming to Scotland to set up with a desire to trade across the rest of the United Kingdom, a market of some 60 million people, and today still one of the 10 largest economies in the world. And the reason to be set in Scotland is because we have such wonderful transportation links that link together the whole of the UK. I also mentioned there on this slide about the fact that 34% of the UK's natural wealth can be found in Scotland. 70% of the UK's fish are landed in Scotland. And today, 10% of Europe's wave power potential is there on the Scottish coasts. So anyone, anywhere in the world involved in technologies, which we view as part of the green economy, ecologically sound solutions, those will be very welcome to come to Scotland. And in fact, next year we will host the World Summit for Ecologists at COP26. And I hope some of you will be coming to join us then. Now, my next slide, I was quite clever here, so I have embedded connections in this slide, but unfortunately they haven't worked on the PowerPoint. So I'm going to take the opportunity to explain very quickly about these different sections which are in Scotland. These are the sectors where we are having a major focus at the moment. We've mentioned space. Scotland we're developing Europe's first orbital spaceport, and we manufacture the highest number of small form factor satellites outside the US. The space industry is one that would greatly welcome companies from India. Our sciences sector in chemical sciences is extremely well advanced. We have some of the greatest brains in the world working in these areas, and we would love to welcome Indian scientists or collaboration with Indian scientists into this area. A number of you have mentioned food products in the chat. In Scotland, we have an organisation in Food and Drink Scotland, which specifically focuses in the food sector. This gives us the opportunity to provide tailored services for food manufacturers or food distributors who wish to set up in Scotland or who wish to take Scottish products into new markets. We are a highly creative industry. We have a highly creative society. We host, as many of you may know, the world's largest arts festival every August, an arts festival which is today the third largest ticketed event on the planet, and this happening in a country of only 5 million people. Our financial services sector is very strong. We have a large number of financial institutions which are all set up in Scotland, many of whom have their back office services there. We have a burgeoning, or for many years now, burgeoning oil and gas sector based out of Aberdeen on the northeast of Scotland. Here we are accessing enormous oil reserves in the North Sea and deep water. As I've mentioned, renewable energy and low carbon technologies are of particular interest in Scotland. We're going to hear next from Jane Morrison-Ross on the technology sector, and due to the highly educated nature of the Scottish education sector, we are in a position where we have a burgeoning technology world. We have an incredible number of technology startups, many of whom will be looking for development partners in different parts of the world. I have to also mention our tourist industry. So due to COVID, we, like the rest of the UK and the rest of the world, have had to hold back on our development within the tourism sector, but we are about to open again. And Scotland, of course, is in a very fortunate position, having last year been voted one of the most beautiful countries in the world. Tourism is not only a service sector, though. We have recently instigated a travel tech cluster within the city of Edinburgh. And here we are gathering together companies with a similar sector knowledge, in this case round about travel technology, to work together. We also do this in the financial services sector, where we set up and support fintech companies together. When I travel the world talking about Scotland, I talk about the integrated nature of our ecosystem. This is particularly important to understand Scotland. To understand, we would welcome you to come. We can sectors from education, from investment, from the third sector as well. Finally, I wanted to talk about how to set up a company in the UK. So Scotland, as part of the UK, has exactly the same system for enabling, instituting and opening a company. We have a large range of support services that are available today for companies to come to Scotland and set up. And just this week, the Chancellor announced a number of support services to help companies to employ the huge talent that we have in the UK. One example of that would be that if a company set up in the UK or in Scotland wishes to hire a young person aged under 24 years of age, there is full grant funding to pay for that individual's salary for 6 months. When it comes to the legal structure for setting up companies, it's very similar to India. We have a range of legal services, company setup services, and support services for making it very straightforward for you to set up in Scotland. What we would advise, though, is initially partnering to understand where the opportunities are for you in the Scottish market, or to partner to see where Scottish companies could come to India to access your vast market. At this particular time, I work with a range of companies which are looking on India as a new market for them, or India as a market to expand the current service range into. We believe that we have a range of products and services which are appropriate for the Indian market, but what we require is partners, either industry sector partners who can help us understand markets, or delivery partners who can take products and services and enable these in India, or channel partners, individuals who can take Scottish products and services and distribute these to markets within India and the local geographical region. What I've tried to do in this brief talk is to give you a flavour for the opportunities in Scotland. But what I would urge you to do is to contact me and contact the other speakers on this call, to contact Scottish Development International, to contact the Foreign Commonwealth Office, or to contact the British government. And they are there to help you, build partnerships, make connections, and if required, set up in Scotland. We want to use this opportunity to encourage more dialogue, more trade, and more investment between our two countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Russell Dalglish. And you've definitely given a lot of ideas to our participants, as again, we have an increased number of questions, which I will take up later. But thank you for giving us a clear picture of the sectors where we can have some business relationship in the future.
And so thank you for pronouncing my name, because you have done particularly well.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I did some Google search before the seminar. So with that, a small note to our participants. We will take up the questions after our third speaker, who's Miss Jane Morrison Ross. So please kindly hold on and keep posting the questions. I will definitely take it up. So with that, I'd like to invite Miss Jane Morrison Ross to discuss about cluster formation and the challenges with its internationalization. Ms. Jane Morrison is the CEO of Scotland IS, which is an industry body and cluster management organization for the digital and technology industries in Scotland. Ms. Jane is highly experienced technology industry executive, a former digital strategy and transformation specialist with 17 years experience working across the public and private sector. She has a strong track record of working in and with digital companies in operations and consultancy, holding senior roles at Capgemini. A focused, energetic, and innovative CEO who leads by example, Ms. Jane is passionate about Scotland's opportunity to become a truly digital democracy by building a transformational infrastructure through collaborative working. Ms. Jane holds board and advisory positions with the UK Technology Cluster Group, One Digital, Digital Skills Group Scotland, and Engineering Skills Group Scotland, and is also the chair of a Scottish charity. It is a privilege to have you with us today, Ms. Jane, and over to you.
Thank you very much for a very warm welcome. Are you able to start the
Yes,
slides for me?
Minute.
Thank you very much. I am the chair, the chief exec of Scotland is the digital technology industry body for Scotland. I'm delighted to be here today. I did work for many years with Capgemini and had the pleasure of working with colleagues in Pune and Chennai and Mumbai for a number of years on some very exciting projects. As Russell said, Scotland is the industry body for digital technology in Scotland. Scotland has a very proud heritage of academia, research and innovation, and Scotland now represents and works with technology companies in space tech, fintech, geospatial data, climate tech, healthcare, and practically any sector you can think of. We also work with industry partners and innovation centres in photonics, sensors, IoT, 5G, and more. We are very proud of the work that we are doing in Scotland, and we're very proud to be, as Russell said already, the only silver certified cluster management centre of excellence in the whole of the United Kingdom. So we're currently the top certified organisation, as we have no gold. We were assessed and benchmarked by the European Secretariat for Cluster Analysis and awarded the certification. And it gives us great connections in Europe and beyond with that global cluster network. We see this as hugely valuable, as in Scotland, our aim is to connect companies locally and reach companies and organisations globally that we can partner with and work with. So, for us in Scotland, a cluster is a community of organisations that share interests and areas of expertise. We bring them together and create an ecosystem, a community around that shared area. We work together with the companies to help them come together in new ways to create new solutions, new products, new services, and new offerings to take to market. As the cluster management organisation, we bring those companies opportunities from buyers, opportunities from different industry sectors for them to create new products and services. We try and create connections and opportunities with companies internationally so that we can build collaborative solutions, but we can also build new channels for our companies to reach partners potentially or customers globally. We're really excited about the opportunity to work more and to build more connections with India. I think there are a number of really exciting areas that we could work with you on. Areas of shared expertise, as Russell has already highlighted: space, health tech, fintech, and beyond. And there are a number of very large Indian companies who have already invested and have presence in Scotland that we work with now, from TCS and Wipro to Dexcom and beyond. Why did we feel it was important to set up as a cluster management organisation and create that model in Scotland? It's really come from the European Union and the success the model has had there. Clusters matter. They have economic power. They are particularly good at weathering difficult times of crisis, political upheaval, or change. And I think the last few months have shown us all that we need to find ways of working together to weather situations like this. So there are around 3,000 specialist clusters in Europe, and they do employ 54 million people. And to put that in perspective, that's a huge amount of people for us. They also tend to pay higher wages, have higher annual growth rates, have higher employment growth rates, have more innovation, more product development, and more high growth companies as cluster members than companies that aren't involved with that. So there is real power in collaboration, real power in coming together to build these networks and solutions. Cluster formation for us is, there's no one set way of doing it. There are a number of different methods. What we've done in Scotland, though, is carried out research initially with the marketplace when we've got an idea that there may be an opportunity to bring companies together around an area of expertise. The first clusters that we have set up in Scotland and we run for Scotland are in data and cyber security, and also in mobility as a service. And we run that one jointly with a partner called Technology Scotland. And they tend to look after the photonics side of the marketplace, and we bring the digital technology expertise. So we have now just under 1,000 companies that we work with. And several hundred in each of those areas with deep expertise in data analytics, predictive analytics, and practically every area you can think of, and in cybersecurity, online safety technology, and again, practically every cyber area of expertise possible. We bring those companies together after having done the research to prove that there were enough companies with that expertise to come together and create that community. After we've done the initial research, we bring them together, we bring that community together, we set up something called a capability directory, which is pretty much what it sounds like. It's one window for anybody internationally to find out about the expertise in Scotland, and I will provide the addresses for those at the end. So essentially, what we do is bring all of the organizations together, create that ecosystem, create that brand, and create one window for those companies to be reached by customers from anywhere, but also to create that international presence. We have been working now for less than a year, actually, with both of the main clusters. So we're delighted, first of all, to have silver accreditation, but we're in the early stages of making a real international brand for Scotland. And I think that's one of the areas of real power for the cluster model, that you can create that collaborative brand and window to the world. What we want to do is bring customers to those companies, but also share those companies' expertise globally and create connections with other companies that may be interested in collaboration, in partnership, in shared research and development opportunities and funding opportunities as well. So the European benchmarking is quite a rigorous process. When you are ready to go through it, they will send somebody to spend a day with you, and they will go through a huge amount of paperwork and plans and strategy documents and everything else, and also benchmark the organization against 36 economic indicators. One of the really useful things about the process is that they then give you a report that details all of the work that you need to do to move to the next stage of accreditation. And for us, the aim is to move towards gold. And as I said, there are no companies at the moment in Scotland or the UK with that gold certification. So apologies, I've not been flicking through the slides as I've been talking. I've been too focused on what I was saying. The real rationale for all of this is to build that thriving ecosystem in Scotland with that window to the world. The cluster definition, as I said, is the concentration of businesses and the community building piece. And we are really delighted to run the data and cyber clusters for Scotland and the mobility as a service one. And I think actually in all of those areas, there are probably real potential connections with companies in India and areas of expertise in India. Also with universities. We work with the Association for Scottish Universities in Technology, CICSA, and we work with individual universities as well, and we do have them involved in the clusters that we're running. It would be fantastic to look at ways of building bridges for our industries with both Scottish and Indian universities and sharing more knowledge there. And I think that'd be something that we would be very excited at looking at in more detail. As you can see from this slide, it just sets out some of the statistics that I've mentioned already around the benefits of the cluster model, and why it's something that is worth looking at and worth thinking about. So the accreditation for us was quite important because it gives us, I suppose, that stamp of approval. It formalizes what we've been working towards and says, yes, you have achieved a certain standard of excellence in your ability to manage and support clusters as a model. For us, it's particularly useful because it gives us greater access to networks throughout Europe and beyond globally. The cluster model is pretty well established in the European Union, as I mentioned, but also in Canada and America. There are some in Australia and in a number of other countries that have followed this process. It's not necessary, though. I mean, some clusters come together as a natural occurrence. They form themselves almost. We're seeing that start to happen in Scotland. We're supporting, but we noticed companies coming together quite naturally around some areas of speciality like geospatial data and the analysis of that geospatial data. There's also work at the moment around a blue economy cluster, because in Scotland we have expertise in aquaculture, and that's starting to happen quite naturally. So although for us this was a useful process, the companies coming together with the shared expertise is actually the most valuable part of this. For us, it does create that one window for potential customers and for our organizations to go out and be seen by the rest of the world. It can generate significantly more R&D funding and opportunities, and it brings partners together that wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to work together otherwise, or wouldn't have found each other otherwise. We did some work recently with Scottish Development International, who had asked us to help find companies with expertise in health tech and medical technology that they weren't necessarily already working with. The opportunity was to go out with SDI and meet a large American healthcare technology company that was looking for smaller, innovative partners. We were able to uncover a number of companies that SDI hadn't worked with before, and then set up a number of, in the current situation, virtual webinars to connect the Scottish companies with the large American customer and partner organization. And that's progressing really well. So that was a huge opportunity for some very small companies in Scotland to work with a global partner for the first time. It's also a very good way of sharing knowledge and expertise in a much broader way than has been possible before. And it creates the opportunity to foster collaborative working as well. Promoting international awareness is key, and as I mentioned, we are very keen to build more and better connections with organisations in India. So for us, it does create that common voice. It delivers more power than companies are able to deliver alone. It builds on a rich heritage of innovation and technology and technical expertise. It signposts opportunities in a really effective way to the members, and creates a forum for addressing challenges, but also a louder voice. So we do a lot of work with both the Scottish and United Kingdom governments. And because of the number of companies we work with, we are able to take messages from our industries to the governments in a way that is very compelling and that they will listen to. Whereas a company working by themselves is unlikely to be heard in the same way. Our clusters are led by people with real expertise in those industries as well. So our data lead is a data scientist by background. Our cyber lead has a background and certification in cybersecurity, working with some very large technology companies. Our lead on the mobility as a service cluster, which looks at the future of the automotive industry and carbon reduction, has a PhD in a relevant field. So we have a real depth of expertise in each of the areas that we work with. Have a look, come and visit us virtually, at least for the moment. Our main address is there. Also, the addresses for the data and cyber clusters are there, and I'm more than happy to share the mobility as a service one as well. I think in summary, I would say we are hugely keen to build international connections, opportunities and partnerships. We would love to work more with organizations in India. We do have a rich heritage and background in collaborating with you and working with you. We also have a huge talent shortage in Scotland. We are, I think in the last year, we had 13,000 vacancies in digital technology in Scotland in high value jobs. So we also work with an organisation called Talent Scotland, who is keen to attract people with fantastic qualifications from all over the world to come and work with us in Scotland. Don't let the weather put you off. We do have sunshine sometimes, and the food is much better than people often admit. So we would love to do more with you. We would love to connect with you. So please do, as Russell said, get in touch, reach out, and let's see what we can do working together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jane. That was a very nice presentation, and it is great to know of your interest in connecting with India, and hope we really have collaborations in the future. With that, we'll take up a few questions. I think Mr. Russell and Dr. Poonam already answered a couple in the chat box, so I will take the rest of the questions. So the first question is how to set up property consultancy firm with the minimum investment or government support. So this property consultancy would basically help NRIs or PIOs to buy properties in Scotland. So what is the support available from the government?
Do you want me to come in? Okay. I would suggest that the entry point for these for businesses is to start with a partnership. So it's to identify an organization where there may be some synergies of opportunity, to approach that organization in Scotland or use someone in the call to make the introduction, and then to look for an opportunity to work together. The reason I explain it this way is that if I was thinking about opening up a new company in India, I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't know where to be based. I wouldn't know who to work with. So first of all, I would look to find a partner in India and become familiar with how the best way to operate. Then I would make the decision on where I wanted to be based.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Russell. The next question is the opportunities in renewable energy like solar and so on in Scotland. Dr. Poonam, you have to unmute yourself. We cannot hear you.
Do you want me to come in?
No, we still can't hear you.
Yeah, can you refresh your browser?
I think while we're waiting for Dr. Poonam to rejoin us, renewable energy is a growing sector in Scotland, and I think there are opportunities to connect with us there. As Russell said, there are a number of channels that are worth looking at, both in terms of partnership with companies that are already based here, but looking to do more and develop more products and solutions, but also through organisations like Scottish Development International, which Dr. Poonam's mentioned, and the Department of International Trade, which is based in London, but is also working very closely with us here in Scotland. Dr. Poonam, are you able to?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, I think Jane did clarify the things I was going to say. So for this sort of questions exactly, obviously, as Russell said, partnership model works best to enter the market and do your research. But if you are totally unfamiliar with how to enter the country itself, then Scottish Development International local offices, there are 3 of them in India, in Delhi, in Mumbai, in Hyderabad. They have a web presence on their website. The email is listed and the phone numbers are listed. So it'll be useful to just make the contact and to say they're interested in doing business with Scotland or partnering with a specific Scottish company. And I'm sure colleagues will be very happy to do that. And similar thing is true for the Scottish companies who are on this call to go the other way. If they want to enter Indian market as well, it's the same process as well. And Shuri is our local technology and science and tech life sciences lead there.
Okay, thank you. Next question, there's a lot of questions coming from the food sector. So they want to know of any regulations with the processed food and so on. If you're importing into Scotland, what would be the regulations?
We have lots of regulation. It's probably the answer. So if I had a food product that I wanted to export, and I'd identified that the UK would be a good market, then Scotland is the perfect location to base the company from. If anyone asking any food-related questions, if they want to email me, and I will pass those on to Food and Drink Scotland and to the Scottish Government's food team to get an answer on that.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah.
I would also just say that don't pick up on that. Please connect with us as well. Russell, as mentioned, he is one of our board and a fantastic contact to have. We have just launched a cross-sector advisory steering group looking actually particularly at digital technology in other sectors, but we now have the Food and Drink Confederation for Scotland, the Scotch Whisky Association, Visit Scotland, the Tourism Organisation, and companies, organisations working in energy and renewable energy and travel and transport and more working with us. So we'd be more than happy to help.
Just on food and drink, so there's a particular interest. There's a particular interest in healthy eating. So any products that fall into that area are particularly popular, and I can assure you that all three of us would be delighted to receive any samples of foods that anyone wants to send us, and perhaps we could look at sending back whiskey in return, and that would have got the trending starting.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. I will attest for that offer, but I'll also say that there were a couple of questions related to nutritional and new snacks, and certainly we are always open to, and with new high energy, high protein, and especially if they are following the organic. So there will be regulation in terms of the origin and the supply chain, because the buyers are getting quite conscious of that fact. Yes. But as long as they are maintained and the initial information is obtained, which all the three speakers we have shared various contacts, I'm sure any food and drinks offer bilaterally both way is very. And similarly for the health also, there were some questions about the Ayurvedic and other alternative medicines. So even though NHS is the sort of backbone of health systems in the UK and Scotland, but alternative sources of medicine and with wellness and well-being economy and mindfulness, I think the alternative sources are becoming very interesting, and we have new organizations which are really connecting with that and taking some of those models up.
Okay, so I'm already seeing people connecting from the two countries, so I think by far this has been the most fruitful dialogue, because we're already establishing connections. So with that, the next question is, what is the market like for auto components?
Oh, just before Poonam comes in, so I did a piece of work on this, looking at the automotive supply chain within Scotland, because we have several companies which are involved in the automotive sector, though we don't have a car manufacturer in Scotland. There is one in the north of England which we supply to, and there are also a number of companies that do business between Scotland and Detroit. We also have a company, Alexander Dennis, which is one of the world's leading coach manufacturers.
Okay.
And we also have significant history and investment in public transportation systems in different parts of the world, again, in automotive. As a country, we have a determined move towards green power sources and a very great interest in electrical cars and electrical transportation systems.
So I would sort of support what Russell said, and on the basis of what you mentioned, the Alexander Dennis, which was the first bus company here, and because of the Scottish government's commitment to sort of low carbon technology, and by 2045 sort of net zero commitment, along with the automotive vehicle reducing carbon emissions, any new technologies, whether that is in terms of hydrogen or electric vehicle development, there is a very, very keen drive to work with any partners who are on the innovation side, but also in terms of, we have a new partnership and innovation park in Dundee, Michelin Innovation Park, which has been a perfect example of government, private sector, industry, public partnerships, and citizens and city council, which is equivalent of local governance at local level, coming together. So this is a perfect example of that quadruple helix, where the Michelin, which is a private partnership, they were moving away, and that innovation park is actually currently just opened, and it is looking for tenants to work into the new technology and new automotive and innovation areas. So if there are any companies that are working in that automotive parts, whether it's the part of supply chain or they are working as a towards the end product, they would be very welcome to contact for that. And again, as I said, besides, I mean, I see Jane nodding there and Russell has it, but SDI has all the contact, because Scottish Enterprise was a key partner with the local council in setting that partner with the Scottish government. So colleagues will be more than happy to encourage any participation in that.
Okay.
Just to add, sorry,
Yes,
Misha,
yes.
I've added the links in the chat
Yes.
for Scottish Development International in Delhi and for the Department of International Trade. The only other thing I would say is the cluster that I mentioned that we co-run in Scotland is Mobility as a Service, and it's looking at the future of the automotive industry. So it's everything from smart transport, carbon reduction, automated vehicles, so AI and robotics, and alternative energy sources. So I will add the link for that into the chat as well, and we'd be delighted to talk.
Yes, that's great. And I think the next couple of questions is actually already answered by all of you. So the questions on how to find Scottish investors and what is the model, I think like you rightly said, and you've posted the link as well, the best way going forward is to get in touch with the offices here in India, and so that they can start with the partnership with the respective companies in Scotland. So yeah.
And I will just say that besides the government and the private sector co-investment investment, there is a very active angel investor community in Scotland, which is one of the best in the world, and one of the oldest one and largest numbers. So any SMEs or smaller businesses with the innovative solutions, especially the technology, which Indian continent and Indian companies tend to be quite strong in because of the workforce and the availability of talented staff there. If there are innovative models, once they are in Scotland and set up either foot base here or partnership, there is a lot of support available on that front as well.
Okay. And I think also the question about Ayurvedic medicine has been answered, the alternative medicine. So moving on, I would like to know, what is Scotland's stand on plastics, on using plastic? Because one of the participants was interested on knowing the, exporting of plastic components from India to Scotland.
Okay, I'll just sort of start with the one point here. Obviously, it will depend on what the product is and where it is used and what is its life cycle. Because while we are all using plastics, there is also a very strong move towards a sort of recyclable or biodegradable product. And we are trying to eliminate, like every country, the use of single-use plastics. So if the technology or the components are such that they could be recycled, or they are adopting any new technologies which are either biodegradable or being recycled into the system, circular economy is a very sort of positive move that we are moving to. So depending on where the product fits in, they can contact the organizations and you make connections for that.
Sure. So one more question here is the potential for textile fabrics. So if you're exporting some textile fabrics from India, what would they have good potential in Scotland?
Russell, do you want to take anything on that? It's obviously...
Sorry, my picture's gone a bit funny. Where have you all gone?
Okay.
Yeah. the textiles sector in Scotland is very much involved in the area of design. So there is a desire to build out to, historically we would have imported from India to design products in Scotland. We've then seen a move to design in Scotland and subcontract manufacture in India. And today, in 2020, we are looking more at India as an export market for Scottish design. So it's a kind of the market's completely flipped. We have a very strong history in textiles. And again, if anyone wants connections in that area, we have Scots at some of the leading textiles firms and designing houses in the world. So just drop me a note and I'll make the introduction.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, if it is related to cotton and natural fabrics, then they are very welcome. And as Russell says, that it's the original product and the core product that is developing, but then being designed. So a partnership model based on where the material emerges from, where the design takes place, and where it gets eventually manufactured and then supplied back. That whole process interlinked would work perfectly well, knowing the strengths of the both countries.
Okay. Okay, and I think this would be our last question. I think this is for Ms. Jane. Can Indian companies be part of clusters without being a resident of Scotland?
Indian companies can absolutely work with us. There's no hard and fast rule. So, get in touch and we can create partner parts of our ecosystem and communities. It'd be wonderful to have Indian companies involved in the clusters.
Okay, great. So, Mr. Ashwani or Mr. Neeraj, do you have any questions for our delegation from Scotland?
I had just one to any of you. What about the repatriation of profits in case we do come set up? Is there any cap on repatriation, any complexities in repatriation of the profits back to India?
I don't think we know. Good question.
Yeah.
Don't invite him next time. He's not allowed to come next time because we don't know.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, that would depend on the company structure and where your company base is, head office is there. And if you are basing it as a subsidiary in Scotland or a partnering organization, and depending on where your taxes are flowed, I think that model will work. But I'm sure the organizational lawyers and the powers that maybe will be better answering that question.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we've come to the end of the session with our delegation from Scotland. So once again, hearty thanks to Dr. Poonam Malik, Mr. Russell Dalgleish, and Ms. Jane Morrison Ross for being with us. And we will now move on to our session with the Indian expert speakers. So you can sit back and find out the investment opportunities in India now. Okay.
Thank you now. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Mr. Russell.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So with that, I'd like to welcome our speaker, Mr. Ashwani Kumar, who will talk about the investment and trade opportunities in India. Mr. Ashwani is a managing partner of Victor Forgings, a top supplier of hand and allied tools in Jalandhar, and has ventured into to expanding his business in Europe, USA, Middle East, Africa, and Southeast Asia. And recently, he was elected as regional chairman for the northern region of the Confederation of Indian Export Organizations. And Mr. Ashwani was also the deputy regional chairman of Engineering Export Promotion Council, Northern Region, and he's the secretary of the Jalandhar Effluent Treatment Society and chairman of Jalandhar. Mr. Ashwani is also an active member of the July' Chapter Integrated Association of SMEs in India as well. And he's been with us through this global leadership dialogue for the past couple of days and is back with us today to share about the opportunities in India. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mishma. And I would love to say a few words before I say anything. As we all know that we have relations since 17th century that started with the movement of kings over there to buy whiskey. And I still remember in one of the palaces of Jaipur, they still have cellars, and thousands of liters are still available with them with the wooden casks. And I think for every, if you ask any Indian about Scotland, he will say where the black label is produced. And I'm sure Scotland does not produce so much of black label, how much it is drunk in India every day. And that's how we know Scotland. And I've been traveling in England since 1979, and I know the most beautiful place is Scotland, of course, to visit and to have good food. And my father is a big fan of Scotland. Coming back to our discussion, ma'am, I'm thankful to Madam Poonam, Dr. Poonam. She has already explained about India more than what I could say. She has done a good survey about India. Not survey, but sure, she must be knowing all better than me. Sure, there is a very big opportunity. Sure, there is a very big opportunity to come to India. Of course, like we said, I represent to MSME. See, we have so many fields open in MSME, like for example, from needle to, I will say, any big machinery or the warships, what we have capability, and we are producing in India. There is no doubt that every field has a big scope. And now with the COVID situation, we have felt in our trade, which is we are producing hand tools in India since 1954. And you will see in every store, Aldi, Lidl, all the stores, whatever the Indian products are, they are all from my city, Jalandhar. And also we produce the largest, we are the largest producers of cricket bat, cricket balls, and all the sports goods equipments like hockey, footballs in India. Of course, that's one field where also there is a possibility to to invest. But Scotland being the most highest highest range in technology, like I was uh, listening to the speakers, that the renewable energy is the one of the best source which we can have some collaborations with you, and of course with the medical technical equipments and all. There is a scope, of course, in India. See, if we start from a very small level, we can do much better than what it is expected in the world. Today, MSME government of India, they have given a special package to MSMEs of India. See, now they have changed the term of MSME, and definition also is changed, and the new law is there how what SME should be. Micro industry is defined separately, and medium, micro, small and medium industry is definitely uh, they have identified separately, where they have kept the investment limit to a certain level that anyone can invest up to 6 million or $8 million, which is very comfortable for everyone to have a good future in this sector. And there's no reservation as such what can be produced or what cannot be produced in MSME. Sure, still there is a big scope for the industries which are looking for good partners in any field. For example, I give you one example. This coronavirus COVID time, there was a big shortage of COVID kits in India and the government immediately showed their interest, and the entrepreneurs from MSMEs are so quick in producing these COVID kits. We have capacity today to serve about more than 1 million masks per day and also we can produce about 100,000 COVID kits per day, and we want to be sufficient for India, like our honorable Prime Minister, which in his directions there is a new slogan that which says Atmanirbhar, self-dependent. We have seen that whatever we were producing in India, we were shifting to the other countries because of the price war, and other countries were selling, especially the China was selling to us. Maybe they have a political price or they want to have a edge on Indian market, like in chemical industry, of course. Today, our Prime Minister has given us a target, as Madam Poonam Malik said, that the 5 trillion economy in 2024. Sure, we are working on those lines, and definitely I'm proud of our Prime Minister that who is encouraging industry for being self-dependent, and with for that they have done a lot of schemes, lot of possibilities of loans from the banks, and the easy terms. In COVID terms, this MSME industry was given 20% of their existing limits from the banks, straightforward, without any document, just to help out the MSME industry. I think today we have a very positive leadership. We have a very positive attitude of India working, and MSMEs are always looking for some partners of introducing the new technology which can give better results. At present, MSME is dependent on the more workforce. Now we are also shifting from more labor-oriented units uh, to technology, and we are shortening our ways how to come more with the modern machines and to go for better productions to reduce the cost. Also, I think I remember one instance, 1996. I was in Pune, uh, and that time some French companies were there to look for the wineries, and because Pune has a very special climate, and a lot of people there were there to test the soil and all. But today, with the French companies, they have established their wineries, and today India is producing, we say, one of the best wines which are produced in India. And Indians, they have started liking it, and there's a very big demand again for the world market. India also having good distilleries, and I'm sure if somebody from Scotland, from the alcohol industry, whiskey industry, can join hands with one of these distilleries in India who can produce the whiskey in India. Although today we are having bottling units in India, but there should be a production unit also. We always look forward to have a new technology, have a solar technology. India is really working on that very well. With these words, I think today our speakers from Scotland, they have given much better view of India than I can say anything more. They also have good idea that India is the right market to invest, and right place to live here, which is very comfortable for everybody. And we hope with this summit we can get some better results from the Scotland, and we can improve a lot in the rest of the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ashwani. And if Dr. Poonam doesn't have any questions, we can move further. Dr. Poonam, we've lost you again. We can't hear you. Nope. I think you can refresh your browser again. Okay, in the meanwhile, I would like to again, yes, please go ahead, Dr. Poonam.
Okay, I think thank you for that, Mr. Ashwini Kumar. And I suppose India is my country of birth, so I ought to know what I know. It will be a shame if I didn't. So with that a background, you suggested about the whiskey collaboration. Obviously, as you said, it's not the single malt whiskey is what Scotland is famous for and is the original. In terms of, do you have any more insight on in terms of the customs duty that are there any plans to change any? Because India does impose 150% of that, whereas China does 5% and Singapore is 16%, and some of the other G20 SAARC countries are almost zero level. So despite it being the largest market in the world, no wonder that the trade, because whiskey, I suppose, is Scotland's largest export product, and because of that disadvantage that it suffers versus some other countries, it's not benefiting. So are there any change? I mean, SWA, which is Scotch Whisky Association from Scotland, has worked alongside the government for making that case. Any reasons? Is it still to basically provide favorable advantage to local, or is it to use less alcohol in India? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
It's not that everybody wants to earn money. India, to the best of my knowledge, India, the bottling is, if you bottle it here, then the excise duty is much lesser. Sorry. But when you import directly, then it's a big duty. Just I forgot to mention that I'm the chairman from Federation of Indian Exporters Organization, and I'm looking after the northern region. Northern region is Punjab, Haryana, Himachal, and Uttar Pradesh. We from Federation from FIO side, I will love to be the part of some deliberations on import and export, because we are only looking after the exports from India, and FIO is the apex body where all the councils, like Leather Council, like Garment Council, like any council which is who is the member of federation, our federation, and if you can take us in confidence with MSME, we can also give maximum information on Indian side, what can be done, what cannot be done, or what we can export. I mean, of course, when I said we can export from needle to warship, so this means all the councils are our member, and we can find the right partner for Scottish people who can produce in India and export.
Yeah, I will mention it to my colleague from Scottish Development International, because this was one of the thing, and then I'm sure they will have at the latest or the next delegation, that can be one of the topics that can be addressed.
Delegation can be from both the sides. We can also come and let the situation improve. Both the sides, it is possible, and we can also welcome the delegation from Scotland too.
At the moment, enjoy the virtual delegation. Let's see.
I think a person like me who is not a technical person, there's a virtual systems they have taught us also. If I need to change anything on my mobile, I ask my granddaughter to do it for me, and she will say, you will never learn anything. But thank you very much for the technology, and this is what is the future.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ashwani. And before we move to the next presentation, I would like to again share with the participants and our speakers today this launch by CIMSME. We have launched the SMEGlocal.com, which is an upcoming global marketplace for buyers as well as sellers. And we've also launched NISHTA, which is the National Initiative for Social, Technological, and Trade's Holistic Advancement, which is a global virtual industry and a cluster platform for global industry collaboration and trade. So please do explore more options by visiting the link of these two launches. Thank you. And with that, I would like to invite our next speaker, Mr. Niraj Mitran, the co-founder and partner of Hola Mitran and Co., to talk about the legal framework adhering to setting up companies in India. To tell a few things about Mr. Neeraj attained his bachelor's in engineering, but he chose to pursue as a chartered accountant and is currently practicing CA since 2014. Mr. Neeraj is a managing partner, third generation chartered accountant, and founding family partner at Madhavan and Co. in Mysore, which is a chartered accounting firm started in mid-1960s. He is also the co-founder and partner at Hola Mitran and Co. Bangalore, which is a chartered accounting firm started in 2015. He is also a non-executive director at Axiom Consulting Limited, a public limited company having branches in over 6 countries. His specialization is setting up companies in India for foreign business owners, including consulting on entry into India, funding for setup, and for initial operations. And he is an expert in direct taxes and indirect tax, business consulting, risk assessment, and due diligence for M&A, with expertise in the software industry, defense industries, and construction industries in India. It is good to have you again today, Mr. Neeraj. The stage is all yours.
Thank you. Before I initiate my discussion, I would like to specifically respond to Dr. Poonam's query on liquor being taxed at a higher rate. Liquor and cigarettes happen to be classified as sin goods in India, and hence there is a higher rate of tax even in India. For example, when I was doing my engineering, we would buy a pack of cigarette for about less than $20 in India, and now it's suddenly moved to 117 about say 10 years time. So basically, the best thing to do is not to invest in cigarettes, but to invest in the shares of cigarette companies, so that your profitability will always improve. This could be one of the reasons why India per se taxes all these sin goods more than the rest of the other countries. This may not be the only answer, but this is my piece of the discussion. Moving on, I am Neeraj, as discussed. I will be talking to you about how can you set up an industry in India, how can you set up an organization in India to ensure that you are able to successfully deploy your assets and resources in India to ensure that you're making profits in India and you're able to repatriate back to Scotland. We all know that business structure can definitely reduce financial and legal risks. And the two most important structures, one being the private limited company and the other being the limited liability partnership. For any other company, whether it is for any other Indian company, a proprietorship, a partnership, an HUF, a trust, any other mechanism can be deployed for setting up a company. But for a foreign entity, the two most important structures will be a private limited company and an LLP. The most important reason is because it allows repatriation of profits. Now, getting back, the most important advantage of setting up a private limited company over an LP is the beneficial tax rate that we have, which is about 22% as against the 30% for an LLP. If you are able to successfully complete and comply with certain regulations, the tax rate could be further reduced to 15%. I repeat, the tax rate could be reduced to 15% if you are a manufacturing unit and you are able to ascertain certain compliances with the government authorities. Further, the Scotland delegation did speak about something called clusters. We do have something similar to it, which I will bring along in the future discussion. Now, if the company does become large and you require public fund into the company itself, only a private limited company is allowed to be listed in the stock exchange of Indian stock exchanges. Predominantly, there are only two stock exchanges that are available in India. One is the BSE Sensex and the other being the Nifty 50. The incorporation itself is an exaggeration now if we say we need 10 days, because like Dr. Poonam highlighted, that the ease of business has, we have jumped 14 ranks in the last 1 year to move to 68th position. I am sure Dr. Poonam will be pleasantly surprised and happy to learn that we will jump a couple of more notches, because over the last 15-20 days, we have come to a point wherein we are able to incorporate a company in less than 72 hours. From the point of procuring document of a foreign resident to a point of opening a bank account to start operations, we've done it in 96 hours. So that is the speed at which we are working. And it is not only the incorporation of the company, but you also get your employee registrations, your indirect tax registrations, and everything is done at the point of incorporation of the company itself, to a point wherein even the bankers are notified that the company is incorporated, and documentations are automatically pushed to the bankers to open their bank accounts. That is how flawlessly and beautifully the entire structure is working. So any business person wanting to set up an entity in India is a breeze. Now, with that said, let us just highlight a couple of most important parameters which a Scottish person or national will be requiring to set up a company in India. The most important thing is there are minimum requirement of 2 directors in the company, of which it is mandated that 1 director should be a resident Indian. The best part about doing this is this resident director itself can be outsourced to an Indian national. When you say it's a resident, it has to be the person who's resident in India should have been a resident or should be situated in India for a minimum period of 182 days or more. So usually the best thing that a lot of other foreign companies do is they delegate this or outsource this very responsibility to a third-party company or an organization or person who is knowledgeable and who can perform this activity with complete professionalism. Like any other incorporation, you will have to require to suggest a name for your company and also furnish the registered address of the company. All document incorporations, filings, everything in India is a paperless document, or it works through online filing of reports. Only document which is not allowed to be signed off digitally is the audited financial statements yet. The audit report, however, has been relaxed during the COVID situations to be signed off digitally as well. Getting back, what are the kind of documentation will a Scottish person require to set up a company in India? Thankfully, Scotland is a Commonwealth country, as well as it has signed the Hague Convention for apostilling documents. Hence, all we need is a notarized document of the passport, driving license, and the bank statement. If in case it's a corporate, it's even more easier. You will have to get a authorized, notarized board resolution of the company to set up its subsidiary in India. So I'll just repeat. So it's so simple that you have to just get your documents in Scotland notarized and share a scan copy to India, and incorporation will happen. However, the hard copies of these documents will be required to obtain something called a digital signature certificate, wherein it's a thumb drive which will be used to authenticate all documents signed off by the directors or any other person in charge of the incorporation and other documentation. Now, as Dr. Poonam did mention, there are something which are there are some routes which are automatically approved and certain routes which have sectoral caps, or there is a restriction to enter such areas or sectors in business in India. The predominant ones being the defense, the railways, insurance, construction, banking, and multi-brand retail. For example, these caps, sectoral caps keep changing. For example, in the area of defense, when we started initially in 2012, it was 26% cap, wherein a Scottish company or an individual could only own only 26% of the total company. Slowly it was moved or increased to 49%, and now it is at 74%. So technically what could happen is a Scottish company or an individual can partner with an Indian company or an individual and own up to 74% of the defense sector company in India. Eventually, we expect it to move to 100% for all industries, and this is only a matter of time. Further, in the area of construction, there are specific restrictions for any foreign national to come into India, and there is a minimum requirement of investment to ensure that this cap is removed. Apart from these few sectoral cap limits and sectors, most other sectors are 100% approved. The most talked about discussion today was the IT sector, which is 100% free. For example, 100% of the company can be owned by a Scottish individual or a company, and they can repatriate 100% of the profits in India back to their home country, including the investment itself. Suppose a Scottish company invests in India for an IT company in 2020, and in 10 years' time, they hit a jackpot and they have sold their company to a very huge conglomerate and they want to move away. 100% of the profits generated on such sale is repatriable back to Scotland, with which or any other country where they can use it. The only condition is they would have to comply with certain documentation at the time of bringing the inflows into India, at the time of incorporation of the company or setting up the unit. Now, getting back to the very specific area, any company incorporated in India will have to undergo or will have to follow three major areas of laws. One being the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, which controls the setting up of the company and controls certain mandatory filings to be completed on a yearly basis. There are certain transaction-based filings as well, like change of a name of a company or something which are not mundane or not repetitive, but once a while transaction. Hence, those will have to be reported. All these documents again are reported electronically, and most of it is post facto approval, as in the transaction can be done and it can only be informed within the next 30 days or 60 days or as the time limit is prescribed to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and it will get approved. Most forms currently are on automatic approval route, wherein you upload a form and you make a payment to the government and you receive an acknowledgement for it being approved. It is as simple as buying a movie ticket on online portal, wherein you pay and you get your movie tickets and you're ready to watch the movie. Similarly, you will also have to comply with something called the Reserve Bank of India for ensuring that investments are properly rooted. These are also transaction-based as well as a yearly compliance. The yearly compliance is a very simple form wherein you'll have to comply your annual turnover and assets and liabilities in the country for the foreign entity and file it by July 15th of every year. There is also transaction-based filing wherein if there's an infusion of new fund coming into the company, if there's a transfer of shares by the foreign national, such transactions will have to be informed to the Reserve Bank of India. Upon successful information, you will receive something called a unique identification number, a UIN number for such transaction, and this can be quoted in case any further transaction needs to be completed under such banner. Finally, as any other country, we have taxation laws as well, and we have a direct and an indirect tax laws in India. Luckily for the country and all involved, over the last 3-4 years, the government has moved away from state-based indirect tax laws to a unified indirect tax law called the Goods and Service Tax, wherein the laws are the same immaterial in which place you are. In one of the discussions that was mentioned, I believe it was Dr. Poonam who mentioned that you will have to do your assessment, market assessment in the area you want to set up your business. Thankfully, earlier, unfortunately, this would have to happen with the taxation laws as well. Now that issue is no longer available, as in the taxation laws is almost uniform and there is no scope for much change between the states or the location. For example, if you set up your branch in Bombay, Delhi or Hyderabad, you do not have to look at the taxation laws of the local states at all, but the major taxation laws will remain unchanged. However, there will be a certain registrations that will be needed for the local registration bodies, which are extremely mundane and not even a cost factor to obtain such registrations, which can be easily obtained as a policy of governance. Please note that these requirements are predefined and there are prescribed timelines on this. There will be certain relaxations based on the situation in the country, depending on any natural calamity or any other pandemic that is now prevalent now. Now, once you incorporate your company, this is something which is very important. What do you get? You get something called an Incorporation Certificate, your charter of the company called the Memorandum of Association, and Articles of Association, as well as the share certificates. Now, you also get the permanent account number through which you'll complete all your annual filings for Income Tax Department, and you'll also get something called a tax reduction account number through which you do withholding of taxes. Upon successful filing of the forms with the Reserve Bank of India, you will get the UIN number for the inbound funds. The greatest advantage which I mentioned that we could incorporate in 96 hours a company, we would complete the item numbers in box 1 and 2 in the top row, that is MCA and income tax within 96 hours along with the bank account. You will also get the other tax registrations in the bottom right corner, that is also obtained immediately. including the employee-related registrations. So basically what's happening, other registrations that you'll need to commence a business would be employee state registrations. Here we have two major registrations, one being the Provident Fund and the other being the state insurance. The most important thing that the companies will have to identify is that there is a cost of 12% of the salary as a commitment by the employer to the employee for his well-being and his pension-related funds. So, for example, if your salary is 15,000 rupees in India, you will have to contribute 1,800 in INR towards the employee-related provident fund. And in the state insurance scheme, it is a 3% additional contribution that the employee is employer is required to make on behalf of the employee. As I mentioned, there are certain region-specific registrations that are required, and any local CA would be able to support you in this. And there's more of a documentation, nothing beyond that. Finally, coming to the indirect tax registration, as I mentioned, the law is uniform now, but I would like to inform you something called the IEC here. This is a license called the Import and Export License, wherein this is not mandatory for an IT company or a service-related company, but it is mandatory for any product importer or a exporter. Now, India is extremely happy to receive foreign currency. So they will do anything which is pro-export. And hence, Indian government provides certain incentives in the form of duty drawback scripts, cashback, and a lot of other formats, wherein if you're able to successfully export, they give you an incentive. For example, if we are able to export 100 pounds of material, suppose the incentive for that material according to the HSN code and category is 3%, the government of India will pay you 3 pounds. This is over and above your transaction profit that you've made because of exporting such goods. For example, an Indian company, which is mine, exports certain goods to doctor's company in Scotland. I would have made a profit on the transaction itself, and if I comply with certain conditions, the government of India will additionally pay me 3% of the export value. This is a very, very lucrative scheme, and we use this scheme not only to obtain incentives, but this can also be used as a mechanism of cost cutting and penetrative pricing for a lot of foreign markets. For a client of ours, we could use this and obtain an order of close to 3,000 crores in INR by using this and bidding below the cost itself of manufacturing. These kind of strategies can be effectively employed from India, and this is something that can be explored. The WTO currently has highlighted this and has requested us to retweak it, but I'm sure the Indian government will do everything possible to ensure exports do happen, and it will be old wine in a new bottle, wherein a new formula will be developed, but the incentives will come in. The IEC here plays an important role because this is the prerequisite for getting such benefits. Now, as you're aware, the directors will always be required to comply with certain conditions, and there are specific provisions in the Act with which they will have to comply with. There are certain penal provisions also for directors in case they are not performing duties in the interest of the shareholders and the all stakeholders involved. There are specific criminal liabilities also available for directors, wherein in case certain actions are not completed, there could be liabilities as well. It is worthy to note that these liabilities do not only mean that these are financial liabilities, there could also be liabilities towards jail time. For example, any misconduct by the director could mean that he would pay up a penalty of up to 25 lakhs in INR and also serve a jail time of up to 3 years in a jail. So this has to be taken care. You will always find insurance to protect your financial liabilities, but not prosecution liabilities. Finally, there is something that we will always have to be aware, something called in India called the transfer pricing regulations. These are available, I'm sure, in the UK as well, wherein you will not be allowed to make profits lower than a preferred threshold. For example, you cannot book losses in India and book super profits in a third country. For example, let's assume Isle of Man, which is very close to Scotland. Suppose you have a company set up in Isle of Man, which is the holding company of India, and you would book super losses in India and book all profits in Isle of Man because it's a tax haven. Such transactions will not be allowed. there are specific provisions in the Indian Income Tax Act which prohibit such transactions, and there's a basic threshold and a benchmark for a minimum profit that has to be declared in India, and taxes have to be paid in such amounts. This is something that is very important, and this is in line with any other major economy that is already having it in place. So this is something that is common. I'm sure Scotland also has something similar to it. I would encourage people from Scotland and Doctor to ensure that we are having a lot more investments in India. The demography, as she rightly pointed, is one of the greatest assets along with our workforce, wherein 65% of our population is below the age of 35. This is a very good parameter because this, and the land is also abundantly available in use. The government is doing all things possible to ensure that we are more successful in setting up industries and also partnering in the growth of the country as well as all stakeholders. India is a country which truly believes in win-win situations, not in taking a bigger deal out of anyone else. Hence, we are a very fair partner to ensure that we can deliver any requirements to all stakeholders. Any further questions in this, I am happy to resolve.
Thank you very much, Mr. Neeraj, and explaining the law and the legal framework in layman's terms so we could understand. And if Dr. Poonam has any question, we can take a few.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Neeraj. It was a very elaborate and good journey down the sort of legal systems. I'm sure people will be quite happy to get all that clarification. And one of the things, very positive takeaway from me was the one you said, that ease of business is increasing further. And I think that has been one of the, besides the traditional other issues, that has been one of the bottlenecks that people have always faced and sort of complained about, to say it takes very slow. So certainly with digitization and improvement of processes, that would be a positive outcome. One of the just a basic query I was thinking along, like if a Scottish company is interested or a UK company is interested in it, and there are legalities of sectors and other framework that are required to be checked, is there a standardized sort of approach for that? Or I mean, where should they make the start? And what would be the way to ensure that they are actually getting the right advice and not taken down the route where in the end they sort of realize that that probably wasn't unbiased, so to speak?
Okay. Currently, in the industry as a whole, we do not have any. I'm not aware of any industry which would do it completely through and through. Hence, you are requiring a professional to help you here. In any sector, for example, in my company itself, we have specific sectors which will address the RBI route, wherein if there is a sectoral cap or anything, and how can we structure this deal itself so that repatriation does happen to the foreign entity. And once that is settled, first you will always have to look at the RBI route, because after incorporating the company, if you realize that the sectoral cap is there and you're not able to do it, it does not make sense. So first we'll have to identify the RBI route, wherein we can identify whether there is complete transparency of the money coming inside into the country for the investment. Then we will definitely have to check out the documentation for the incorporation, the market research, business research, and other things I'm sure the companies will be able to handle. Once the company incorporation is done, you will require to have a compliance structure and a business structure. You will also have a lot of parties who can source such areas of clusters and everything. For example, Bangalore itself has a couple of sectors in the IT industry, clusters in the IT industries, which are tax-free. For example, you can set up an entity in an SEZ, a special economic zone in India, say in Bangalore, and not pay tax for the next 10 years, either in direct or indirect taxes. So such benefits can always be obtained and can be examined depending on what they're doing. For such sectors, it is mandatory that you are supposed to do only exports. So if a Scottish company wants to supply to say the Southeast Asian countries, and they set up somewhere in Gujarat or in Karnataka, in one of these clusters, if they are able to do 100% exports, then they can have a lot of arrangements wherein their imports becomes duty free and exports is also duty free. So all such structures can be, there are a lot of systems that are available even for importing capital goods for manufacturing. Suppose we want to set up a wine manufacturing unit in India, and capital goods are coming from Scotland or UK. You can take specific approvals to set this capital equipment in a plant and machinery methodology by not paying any customs duty at the time of bringing the equipment into India. Suppose the equipment is about $1 million and you have to have a payout of around 20% of customs duty. The 20% is exempted provided you take an undertaking to export certain value of goods within X number of years. All such structures can be identified and can be decided before the entry point comes in. But these are all business analysis and this thing. So once the business analysis and the market is decided, the first thing they can move is to RBI, verify whether there's a sectoral cap. Then they can come to Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and everything is more or less seamless now. Because the number of sectors where the cap is also installed is in something like insurance, banking, aerospace, and missile technology. So these are not your everyday Joes who come and set up companies in India. You find others which are absolutely free. And if you do certain things right at the point of incorporation, you will have no turning back.
Thank you.
I hope I was pointed to your answer, to your query.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you again so much, Mr. Neeraj Mitran. And with that, we've come almost to the end of today's session. And I would now like to request our national chairman, Mrs. Nabomita Mazumdar, to sum up today's session. Mrs. Nabomita is a winner of 100 Women Achievers Award by Ministry of Women and Child Development, India. She has also been awarded as one of the top 25 influential women on Twitter, top 20 HR influencer by SHRM India, and top 100 tech influencer. She's also the founder of Nabomita.com, which amplifies meaningful messages to society using different formats of media. And she is the national chairperson of CIMSME. So it is great to have you today with us, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Am I audible?
You're audible, but you're not visible. Please, can you turn on your video?
Yeah, somehow the video was working when I did not have to speak, and now it's not working anymore.
Okay.
So I will quickly summarize. I loved the sessions that I heard. I loved the speech by Russell, Jane, Dr. Poonam, amazing. I mean, I mean, seriously, the way Russell opened up opportunities for companies from India, from both the nations, be it food, be it textile, the way he explained, I'm sure, I mean, the manufacturers for textile in India would see this as a golden opportunity of collaborating with the designers, as he mentioned, and so readily he was offering to connect. I can't thank him enough for this. I mean, seriously, yeah, Russell, Jane, Dr. Poonam, amazing. I mean, the kind of impact that y'all had through the kind of opening up and sharing of connections. I think that has already created a lot of opportunities for business houses in both the countries, and this will only take us higher. Neeraj ji, thank you so much. Ashwani ji, thank you so much. The way y'all explained, obviously, when we are talking about Scotland, Ashwani ji, thank you for mentioning wine. I'm sure there are many companies, because in India started its own wine production, but then the kind of import from or a collaboration with Scotland. I'm sure all these companies would love to have an access to. Neeraj ji, the way you have explained the responsibilities of a director or a company that is opening up in India, amazing. Even as a layman, I think You couldn't have explained it better. Amazing. I just loved your session. I can go on talking, but I know we are already ahead of time. So I would want to conclude it thanking all our speakers for the brilliant contribution made and connections established. There couldn't have been a better 2 hours of productivity than we have lived in last 2 hours. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mrs. Nabamita, and thanks for being with us today. So, yes, with that, we've come to our global leadership dialogue with Scotland. And once again, I extend on humble thanks and heartfelt gratitude towards our esteemed guests, Dr. Poonam Malik, Mr. Russell Dalglish, and Ms. Jane Morrison for being with us today. It was definitely a very fruitful session, I would say, and we are miles apart, but we've come together to create new beginnings. And I'm sure the session is a ray of hope for MSMEs both in Scotland and India during this difficult times. And I also extend thanks to our Indian expert speakers, Mr. Ashwani Kumar and Mr. Neeraj Mitran, for being with us again today and sharing insightful information. And special thanks to Mrs. Nabomita Mazumdar for being with us, the national chairman. And also special thanks to all the CIMSME Council members for supporting this event and our participants for staying with us till the end. So thank you very much for being with us today. And please continue to join us through our various events, which you can find on the CIMSME page. So good night and a good day to people in Scotland.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Thanks, Mishima.
Bye, ma'am.
Great hosting. Enjoyed being part of it and look forward to seeing you again sometime soon.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Looking
Thank
forward.
you all. Thanks to Biju and Santosh for the invitation and enjoy part of it. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Truly appreciate your contribution, madam. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Thank you. What do I do to leave?